We got to talk NFL draft, and we have a very special guest here on the show, Hall of Fame offensive lineman, 10-time Pro Bowler, a member of the NFL 2010s All-Decade Team, and 11-year NFL veteran. Of course, I'm talking about Joe Thomas. Joe, good morning to you. Thanks for waking up with us. I know it's a little early depending on where you are, so we appreciate you setting the alarm and getting up with us. But let me start with you and talking about the Browns, because you are a Cleveland Brown and spent your career with them. Did you like them trading out of that second overall pick?
It was kind of hard for me to accept because I've said it before, but like Christmas morning when you're a kid, you expect one gift, and all indications are that boombox is going to be under the tree, and you can't wait to unwrap it. And then you go on Christmas morning, and you wake up and you open the box, and it's empty, and it says, "Hey, don't worry, we're going to get you a boombox next year, and it's going to be even better than the one that you got this year." But you know what? When you've been building up that hype and that excitement in your mind, and just like in the draft, I really was expecting Travis Hunter to be a Cleveland Brown. I was excited. My son was getting ready to buy the jersey. And so when you wake up on draft day and they trade out and you see the Jacksonville Jaguars take the guy that you'd already pictured in the brown and the orange helmet, and it was tough. But I think when you look at what they got from a draft resources standpoint in that trade, I mean, they really beat what people use as fair draft compensation when you're trading picks, because they were able to get a huge haul. I think they got another second round this year, first round next year from the Jacksonville Jaguars, and a couple extra picks in there. So as far as draft value goes, like, they did a really good job with the pick. They still got their biggest position of need on defense with Mason Graham, who's going to pair with Myles Garrett. So I think, after the pain wore off a little bit of not getting Travis Hunter, you feel pretty good about what the Browns ended up getting out of it.
Yeah, and speaking of value, if we're continuing on with the Christmas reference, it's like Santa got a new bike on clearance when you got Shedeur Sanders at 144.
That's
So
right.
what do you think he brings to this quarterback room?
Well, it's interesting because they picked up Dylan Gabriel in the third round, number 94, who was kind of a controversial pick, right? Because he's had a lot of success in college. But everybody kind of wonders if his game translates to the NFL, because he doesn't have a big arm, not a great athlete, not very tall, especially in the AFC North where you got to play outside all four of your division games, including yourself playing at home. So, it was a little bit of a question mark, but I think the good thing about the Dylan Gabriel pick is you're going to find out really quickly if he's a guy that can be your quarterback. And by the time they were picking there in round 5 and Shedeur Sanders was still available, it's not like they were looking for a quarterback, but they had Shedeur Sanders rated really high. And I think the opportunity cost of taking him was not very high because they didn't really have anybody else on their board that they really loved. And so they figured, hey, we draft Shedeur Sanders. We're going to find out really quick about Dylan Gabriel. I think Shedeur is probably going to be on the team for at least a couple years. And having a guy in your building that long, you really get to know about him, and you get to learn if you feel like, hey, this is a guy that we can definitely fit into our offense. He's going to be a great player for the team. Or, you know what? We should move on. And now they have the resources to be able to do that. And so I think anytime you get a quarterback in the 5th round that potentially could be a franchise quarterback, it becomes just such a discount over what you have to pay to find a starting quarterback, typically at the top of the 1st round or through free agency with a king's ransom, that it just made sense for the Browns to pick it up and be able to have some options with Sanders.
Joe, there's all sorts of theories as to why Shedeur Sanders fell, and it's fair to say, okay, maybe he wasn't a first-round pick. I know a lot of experts said he wasn't, but to fall to the 5th round, it feels like that a narrative took hold, and that sort of fed into why we saw that free fall. But what do you think happened?
Well, sometimes with the quarterback position in the draft, things can get pretty goofy, right? Because
Yeah.
not everybody's looking for a quarterback. It's the only position on the team outside of maybe like kicker, punter, snapper, which obviously you're not getting a lot of those guys drafted high, but it's the only position on the team where you can only have one of them out there. And it's not like if it doesn't work at quarterback, you can easily move him to another position. You take an offensive in the 1st round, you're like, oh, he's our left tackle of the future. It doesn't work out. Okay, maybe we play him at guard. All right, we already got 2 good tackles. We take a tackle, move him to another position. Same thing with almost any other position on the field. But, there's only a few teams that were really, I think, likely in play for Sanders. Obviously, the Browns are one of them. The Steelers were another one. And I think the Saints, a team that people were really watching. But with next year's draft, everybody thinking that the quarterback position is going to be a lot deeper with a lot better talent. The teams that were really quarterback needy thought, hey, we don't think that Shedeur is a guy that can change our franchise this year. And so we'd rather pick up other positions that we have rated way above where Shedeur is, and then go and try to find a quarterback next year in a draft that's a lot deeper. So I think the problem was for him, he slid. And then by the time he got into the second round, like those teams that needed a quarterback were just going in other directions, feeling like, hey, we got time. Even if we want this guy, he'll be a discount pick later on, but we have much more important needs, and we feel like he's not a guy that can start for us right now. So he probably just doesn't fit, and we'd rather just kick the can and try to get a better quarterback next year.
All right, Joe, General Brown's question, because I feel like it's a franchise that it's easy to pick on them. But what faith do you have in this franchise? And is there a reason why people should have some faith in this team moving forward?
Well, in order to be a Browns fan, you have to have a lot of blind faith, because at this point, it's not like being a fan has really rewarded you with a lot of great moments in the playoffs and the Super Bowl. So I think it's just part of being a Browns fan. It's in the fabric of your DNA that you have to find hope in hopeless situations. I mean, I think in Cleveland, we have this saying that the draft is our Super Bowl, because it's kind of the thing that everybody waits for every year. And you decide, like, because there is no scoreboard for the draft, by the time the draft's over, if you're a Browns fan, you always find a way to talk yourself into, like, yeah, that was a great draft. I'm excited for the season. Because if you weren't able to do that, you wouldn't be a fan and you'd stop watching 10 years ago.
So, Joe, I mean,
I bet that was inspiring if you're a Browns fan.
At first, they're like, he's right, though. He's absolutely right. We're talking to the Hall of Fame offensive lineman, Joe Thomas. Of course, 11 years with the Cleveland Browns, a 10-time Pro Bowler. Follow him on X, by the way, at Joe Thomas 73. Joe, who is a player, or maybe players, that you really liked going into the draft and you thought that where they went was good relative to their draft position? Because, I mean, you're a football guy. You know these guys.
Yeah, I mean, just specifically looking at the Browns, I think that pick of Carson Schwarzenegger is awesome, because to be able to get a speedy linebacker in the second round with incredible range, especially with Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, who was our starting inside linebacker last year, coming off of a serious neck injury, I thought he was a really, really good value pick. Linebackers, they've lost so much value, almost like a running back in today's NFL. But if you look at the way the Browns have structured their defense, they want defensive linemen that are going to create havoc at the line of scrimmage and disruption, and they're going to penetrate and screw up pullers and mess up zone combinations, which will allow their linebackers to run free. And with Lamar Jackson in that division, they need fast linebackers, and they want to play with nickel and dime personnel. So a lot of cornerbacks, fast linebackers that can cover tight ends, that can get deep into zone drops. And also, when Lamar Jackson breaks free, you got to have somebody with the speed and athleticism to keep up and put hands on him. So I think that was a really good pick for what the Browns did. I think for other teams, being in Green Bay for the draft and being a kid from Wisconsin that has a lot of friends and family still, my dad's still a big Packer fan. I think the selection of Matthew Golden, the wide receiver from Texas, was so awesome, because in Green Bay, if you haven't followed their history, they never draft a receiver. And every year that's like their biggest need. And for whatever reason, they always go with other positions. And so to be able to get a star receiver in the first round who can be that bona fide number one X receiver for Jordan Love, it was like a weight was lifted off of Packer fans' shoulders. And to be in Lambeau Field or outside at the draft when that selection was made, it was Christmas. A lot of Christmas references, and we're not even halfway there yet, but it felt like it was Christmas for all those cheeseheads, because they were so happy. And I think they'll finally have a chance to really get a great evaluation of, is Jordan Love the heir apparent? He's been paid like it. Now can he perform like it?
All right, a couple minutes left here, and it feels crazy to me that we've talked about the NFL draft, but nobody talks about the number one overall pick and Cam Ward. It just feels like such a non-story this year. So do you have a hot take on Cam Ward? Do you think he's going to be a great quarterback? Do you think he's going to be an average quarterback? What do you think the ceiling is for Cam Ward?
Yeah, well, he's got a really high ceiling. That's why he went number one overall. He doesn't have the polish of a guy like even say a Shedeur Sanders. But it was an interesting draft, right? Because
Yeah.
he was clearly the number one guy. I don't know if he would have been the number one guy in any of the recent drafts because quarterback has been, thankfully for the NFL, a very, very rich position coming out of college football recently. And this year was just a little bit of a dip. It was a down year. And so you're taking a guy number one overall and doing a lot of projecting. I mean, you're drafting him based on his amazing ability. He was very successful in college, but a lot of questions marks about decision making, some accuracy, like how he fits. And so it is a risky pick, but when you're sitting at number one and you're the Tennessee Titans and you got to get a quarterback, you take the best guy with the highest ceiling and you hope that you swing for the fences and you get some returns and you trust in your coaches to be able to develop him into a Pro Bowl type quarterback. So I think for the Browns, they tried to trade up because they did like Cam Ward also at when they were sitting at number two. They couldn't put a package together because they probably didn't offer a very rich package, knowing that there are a lot of question marks, high ceiling, but he also has a low potential floor. And at number one, that makes you really, really nervous. So, I mean, we'll find out very quickly in a couple years if Cam Ward can develop himself into a guy that was worthy of that number one pick and that can take that franchise over and be the Pro Bowl guy that the Tennessee Titans need him to be.
He is one of the best to ever do it. An 11-year NFL veteran, all with the Cleveland Browns, a 10-time Pro Bowler, and NFL Hall of Famer. It is Joe Thomas. Joe, we really appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on. I got to get back to my Hall of Fame beef herd. I got to pump my Hall of Fame beef. SixSpringsFarms.com. We sell meat sticks, we sell jerky, we sell all type of steaks on my family farm, raised pasture to plate right here just for you. So make sure you check it out. SixSpringsFarms.com. And hope you enjoy some Wisconsin beef sometime, guys. Maybe I'll send some to you if you send me your address.
All right, that sounds good. I'm always up for some jerky and some good beef, so that sounds good to me. Joe, thank you.
All right, guys. Have a great day.